have a special guest here, Mr. Ian Michael, that's joining James and, of course, myself. We're going to get to know Ian a little bit better. We're going to take every single last minute to get to know with what makes Ian special, which I think is an amazing gentleman in the industry. So with that being said, Ian, welcome.
Oh, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I always tune into these sessions, and it's always a wealth of knowledge, so I really appreciate you having me.
For sure. So let's get to know you a little bit better. Let's get the audience to know more about you. Where are you coming from? How long have you been in the business? Give us a little bit of the rundown of yourself.
Yeah. So I've been in the business for 12 years, 2 years as a loan officer and 10 years as a real estate agent. I'm tuning in from, just moved out here, Phillips Ranch, California. So for those who don't know where Phillips Ranch is, a small community in Pomona next to Diamond Bar and Chino Hills. Yeah, it's been a great time my whole career, and excited to see what the new year brings.
For sure. And then, of course, we got James Shelby, who's joining us as always. So, James, thank you for being here as well.
Absolutely.
So let the audience know about yourself as well.
Well, I'm located in Temecula, California, and I've been in the business now 13 years and just have a ton of fun doing this with you, Robert, every other week and interviewing great people like Ian. So I'm excited to dig into his business and kind of some of the stuff he's been doing to generate business and be an outstanding producer.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's get into some of the questions. Now, again, you mentioned, Ian, you've been in the business now for 10 years. You're now servicing basically LA, Orange County, Inland Empire, all of that good area. Last year was a little bit of a trial year for a lot of agents. You had an exceptional year. You did an amazing job. What were some sources that you were able to capitalize in a not so strong market?
Yeah, which is a great question. As you brought it up, it was kind of a quote unquote down year for a lot of agents. But honestly, last year, as far as transaction count, was, one of my best years in a long time. And what I did was I pivoted early on in the year. I never forget, I was talking to my escrow officer in March of last year, I think, and she was just telling me from March of last year to the year before was one of the lowest real estate transaction counts since 2008. I'm like, oh my God. It's wild. So something needs to change. So I kind of doubled down on my sphere of influence. So people that know, like, or should like you, right, and should trust you. So double down on my sphere of influence. And that kind of, took me out of the rut, right? So it took me from prospecting people that maybe not just were less serious or just less trusting to people that, once again, trusted in me, have seen me be in the industry for a while and was familiar and wanted to make some moves. That's kind of what equated to my success for last year.
Got it. So how many deals did you end up closing last year?
So on the MLS, it was 36. I did a couple off-market deals. On MLS, it was 36.
Cool. Awesome. And then what's your goal for this year in 2026?
Sounds crazy, even when I say it out loud. So my goal is 60 transactions.
There we go.
You got that. You got that easy.
Sure. Thank you.
So what are some of the things you need to do to get upper 30s and into the 60s? What are some changes you need to make?
Yeah, so I'll be fully transparent with you. I've been in the industry, like I mentioned, 12 years. So as of like the last 4 years, I've really just ultimately waited for the phone to ring. So I've done a good job of servicing my clients. So I get a lot of referrals and a lot of repeat business. That was like 90% of my transactions last year. But doing 36, going all the way to 60, it can't continue that way. So moving forward, the avenues of prospecting would be, for sale by owners, expired listings. So there was a lot of those the last year, which is why, I tune into a lot of your sessions, Rob. Thank you so much for your input on that. And so double down on my sphere of influence, expired listings, for sale by owners, if we ever do get them. There's not a lot of few in this market. And then just doubling down on YouTube. So YouTube and other parts of social media, or I would say YouTube for the most part, in my experience, and some of the people that I've talked to that have been super successful on YouTube, is not necessarily a now business, but it's going to feed me. If I start now, it's going to feed me for sure in 6 months to 12 months. So that's going to be my prospecting career this year.
I love that, Ian. And, Robert, being the coach that you are, making millionaires, I know one of Robert's big point of emphasis to his clients and his coaching clients is sphere of influence. And I think sphere of influence for agents that have been in the business at least a couple of years, that have a couple deals under their belt, is one of the biggest untapped sources of business. Can you dig into that, Ian, a little bit more on exactly what you did over this last year to really pull some business from maybe your past clients in your sphere that maybe you weren't doing in the years prior?
No, and I agree. It sounds crazy to me that people want to source 100% of their business on, cold online leads or whatnot. And I'm like, what? The closest deal is your phone, 100%. I totally agree with that. So what I've done in the past year to kind of cultivate my sphere of influence to get them to, send me businesses, ultimately give them value. So I have a value piece each time that I reach out to them. So I'm not the traditional salesperson. Like, I'm not as aggressive as most salespeople. I like to give people value. I'm very like, hey, if you want my information or if you want my help, I'd love to give it to you. I'm not going to force myself onto you, but hey, if you're there and we meet, we have oil line, and great, let's do business. So I offer pieces of value every month, right? So the first month would be something like, hey, I noticed that your home is in your name. Have you ever thought about putting it into a trust? Or, hey, this is do you have any kind of needs in your house? I know it's December. Have you serviced your heater? Like, do you need an electrician to help you with that type of process, HVAC, stuff like that? So each month I come up with something of value to my clients. And so it's crazy. Like, I've been doing that for the past 18 months, bringing something of value to my clients. I'm sorry, one of my clients a year and a half ago referred me to her aunt. It was like, hey, my aunt's thinking about selling her house, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, hey, first you need to put this in the trust. That's the absolute first thing you need to do is put this in the trust. Well, fast forward 6 months ago, my client gave me a call. I was like, hey, my aunt that I was telling you she was about to sell her house and you told her to put it in the trust. Yeah, well, she passed away and she didn't put it in the trust. Now the family has to sell 2 houses. Can you help? And I was like, damn, it's an unfortunate situation. I tried to, guide them in the right direction, but, providing value to my clients, brought me to the table of, helping my clients sell, these 2 houses. And I had double-ended one of the houses. So offering value to my community brought me 3 transactions like a year later. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just doubling down on stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would add too, so which I appreciate, James, in regards to the compliment, one of the areas where I help agents double, triple, and quadruple their business is almost always a starting point is that of their database. We're reaching out to their friends and their families and their past clients. But you nailed it. And it's really important we understand that it's not about calling them and begging for business. We have to be able to provide those values. What are the things that brings value to the table for these people? So you're continuing to grow that. That's awesome. Now, one of the things that I really appreciate and what called my attention to you is on the social media side of things. Now, you're doing a phenomenal job and you're really kicking butt. What are some areas of focuses that you're working on this next year, 2026, that you're going to start to kind of pick up in that area of opportunity?
Yeah, I think the big thing with social media now is hyper local focus, right? So for a lot of people are farming in different areas, which is cold calling, they're dialing, they're door knocking you an open house in the area, which is great. But at times, especially for like my generation and the newer generation, they kind of get bored of that type of stuff. I want to bring them in on the journey to get them excited about the community. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing on my end is, once again, hyper local activity, visiting coffee shops, visiting, fun things to do in the area, just being a wealth of knowledge of the community, right? And taking video and putting that on my social media. So that's going to be of course, in talking about, the escrow process, buyer needs, seller needs, what you shouldn't do, things of that sort, all the easy stuff, right? All the fun stuff us realtors like to do, but we want to do the forward things that the clients would look forward to. So 9 times out of 10, they're going to share something like a new coffee shop in the area versus, hey, here's 5 tips on how to increase your home worth, stuff like that. Even though that's much needed, we can't forget about stuff like that. But to capture their attention initially, then yeah, we got to do things like highlighting the local food spot, the coffee shop, the events to do with the kids, things of that sort. And especially that's my clientele, families too. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing moving forward.
Yeah. So basically encompassing your database, doing the social media aspect. And that's kind of the best part about what I like to call old school and introducing the new school type of business. because there are a lot of agents where they go through and they say, you know what, I can be an agent. I can go on social media. I can do my dancing. I got great dancing skills. Post these videos and unfortunately not get the results. You have to be able to do a combination of both to really take it to the next level. And I don't doubt you're going to do those 60 deals. I really don't doubt everything you've been building, that momentum. That's where I see great people like yourself where they're able to double their business. Now, let me ask you though, because this is an area of opportunity for myself on the social media side of things. What are some things that you are seeing that's working well for you that you're going to continue to do more of, specifically on the social media side?
Yeah, so the things that are working well for me are honestly being like my authentic self on social media. That's what works well for me. So every year I kind of look at the different posts in my Instagram feed, see what went well, see what didn't well, things like that. But what I've noticed is that whenever I involve my life, right, a lot of people are kind of skeptical about doing stuff like oversharing and stuff like that. But whenever I involve my life, my family, my kids, hey, Instagram loves kids. Like social media loves kids. I've noticed that. So what I'm going to do, moving forward is like involve a little bit more of my family, and then kind of sprinkle real estate in there. So like one of my ideas, and you guys can take this as well, is I have a 5-year-old daughter. I'm going to have her be my real estate assistant, and we're going to show houses all through Instagram. And I guarantee, watch, I'm going to mark my words. I guarantee, like once I do that, people are gonna love it. So that's what I'm gonna do moving forward, is kind of involve like my family and then kind of like a little more lifestyle type stuff.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more relatable too, because they can sit there and this guy isn't just some single dude that's out there and just trying to live this party lifestyle. It's kind of like, Matt, this dude's just like me. He looks like one of my friends. He has kids like me. So it gives us that opportunity inside us. What you bring to the table. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah, Ian, to kind of parlay on that thought there, where you're maybe blending the two things that we've been speaking about, right? So you're talking about social media, you're talking about YouTube, and then you're also talking about your sphere and past clients. How are you bringing them over to your social media platforms so that they are also getting, you're getting in front of them on a daily basis through those platforms? Are you adding them? Let's say it's someone from the local coffee shop or from your kids' sports team. Are you adding them on social media? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, great question. So whenever I do meet someone that's not a part of my initial network, that's one of the first things I do is I add them on my social. I'll say, hey, let's stay connected. I'm more on social media than I am in your email inbox. So let's stay on social media and stay connected. So that's the line that I use. Like, hey, I can send you emails all day, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to delete them or it's going to go to spam. Let's follow each other on social because I get great information on social media as well. So that's a line that I usually tell people. And then, that's one of the first things that I do, whether I'm at an open house, whether I'm, like I said, at a kid's soccer game or whatnot. Like whenever I'm introducing people into my life, social is the very first thing that I offer.
That's a key point right there for a lot of people that are listening that maybe aren't doing that already. It's very important. Get in front of them on social media as soon as possible. Like you said, hey, you meet someone at an open house, maybe you're vibing with them a little bit and you say, maybe you're getting their information. You say, hey, by the way, let's connect on social, because even if for some reason, maybe they gave you the wrong number or something, now you're connected on social and they can actually look into who is this guy? Maybe they feel a little weird. I don't know if I want to give my number. They connect on social media. They see the proof is in the pudding there, the social proof there. Hey, I sold this house. I helped this client. And now you're connected there and they can get a better idea of who you are so they can, trust you moving forward.
That's a great point because that actually happened to me. So I had a client who met at an open house and we followed each other and I was calling them, texting them, still no response. And they responded to one of my stories and I'm like, hey, I've been calling, texting you. And they're like, oh, what number you have? And I give them the number like, oh, my bad. That was a bad number. You can find me better on this number.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? People don't know who we are when we just walk in an open house or maybe even from a cold call. I've even had, circle prospecting sessions where, hey, we just sold a home in the neighborhood. Maybe have a good conversation. I've already got their phone number. I've already got their address because I'm calling them. Hey, you know what? Why don't we connect on social media? Now I've got them, connect on social media. Even if they're not looking to do something at the moment, that's one more person that I've got, kind of following me. So I love what you're doing there. And I think for some of the people watching, that'd be a good tip for them. Add as many people as you can and stay connected.
Most definitely.
Yeah. The other thing too is that speaking of, if you guys aren't following Ian, I'm going to encourage you guys to make sure you're following him on his Instagram. What other platforms are you on, by the way? I know you mentioned YouTube, obviously Instagram. What else?
Starting the YouTube channel up, Instagram. I need to do a much better job of being on TikTok. I was on TikTok heavy when the world shut down, right, in 2020. But when the world opened back up, folks diverted my attention more on Instagram. But I need to do a better job of being on TikTok. So that's one of my goals for this year is number one, YouTube is number one. And then number two is to be more consistent on TikTok. And then, of course, Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. So again, if you're not following Ian, make sure you guys are following him on all of those platforms. Same thing with James and same things, of course, with myself. I want to shift gears here a little bit because it is important. You've been in the business now for 10 years. Mindset plays a role. And this last year was a very, very tested topic for a lot of realtors in regards to that mindset shift. You're now in a position where you've been doing this business for a decade. There's a certain complacency that starts to play a part. You're a successful agent. You're trying to get to a position where you're almost doubling your business. What are some things that you do to fight that complacency from within yourself?
Yeah, it was a great question. Great question. And in full transparency, I suffer from complacency as well. You know what I'm saying? It happens to all of us. And so how I fight it moving forward is two main things, right? Number one, I have a journal that I try to write through every day. It has, 5 things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that, happened in the last 24 hours that made me happy. It has affirmations and it has a section that says, I earn X amount of dollars, per year or whatnot. I got it from Danny Morale, a notebook. Pretty solid dude. And so I write down the journal. And then number 2, I always have something to look forward to. Right. Even like it could be financially. Right. So like this year, my goal is to take my extended family on a vacation during December. Right. So like we'll go to somewhere warm. Right. And then I'm over here tallying that amount. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, probably going to run like $10,000-$15,000. So let me hop on these phones real quick, try to make that happen on top of my other bills. So I bought a house about 2 years ago. Now in April will be 2 years. I bought a house and did a full remodel and everything. So like that was my thing to look forward to. Now I hit that and I'm like, all right, well, what do I got to do next? So I always constantly have goals, right? Whether it be, for myself or like I said, being a blessing to others. And so that's what I do to try to, continue to stay motivated because it's not about me. I love to help others.
Yeah, the last 30, 45 days, with all the speaking engagements I've been doing, the different groups that I've been speaking with, it's been a lot of business planning, a lot of goal setting. And the one thing that I do talk about to the audience, there's the old saying, you got to know your why. I'm not really personally a big fan of that terminology because in most cases, it's not just about the why. It's about the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. Because in that, I want to accomplish this. Okay, good. But who's going with you? Okay, where is it that you're going to? When do you want to accomplish this? So it encompasses a lot of that stuff, which is really, really important that the audience does understand. And what I like what you're bringing to the table, Ian, is you have a destination. You have a trajectory. This is what I want to accomplish. Agents, unfortunately, have a hard time. I've noticed there's 2 different types of agents in this industry. The agents that know what it is that they want to accomplish, their goals, and they move in that direction. And then the other agent, which unfortunately is the majority of agents, they don't know what it is. The only goal that they have is to make sure that they pay their rent, pay their mortgage, pay their car, pay their utilities, and that's it. So you have to identify some of your goals. Now, let me jump back in regards to that very same topic. What are some goals that are a little further out in the future for you that excites you, maybe scares you, that you just kind of want to put it out there that maybe you haven't shared with anybody in a year, 2 or 5 years from now? I want to do this. What are some of those things?
Yeah, so my goal for 3 years, right? So like I'm 38 years old. 3 years I'll be 42, right? So like my goal is to exit the day-to-day of real estate. So have a team fully operational and exit the day to day and still maintaining my lifestyle, right? Whether it be having the team, me helping the team and the business, essentially it's the business. The business generate, X amount to cover my lifestyle. And then that way I can focus more on investments or kind of like what you're doing right now, helping people, sell more real estate or just helping people develop a business plan themselves. It doesn't have to be real estate specific, but just business in general. Right. So growing in their parts of business and then also just doing more philanthropic stuff because that's what I love to do. I love to give away, as many help people with their resources. Not give away money, but like help people with their resources, and help them have a better life, things of that sort. So that's the overall thing. And then ultimately, I need to, in order for that to happen, I need to make, around for a comfortable lifestyle, probably about $40,000 a month. The business has to provide for me without me operating in that. So that's an audacious goal. You know what I'm saying? That definitely scares me. No question.
I love that. And I love that you talked about, complacency, Robert, because, one of two things usually happens with agents, right? The successful agent can become complacent. And the agent that maybe is struggling, they start to get that kind of, what's the word? They start to dislike the business very much, right? So either you're doing really well and you're complacent, so you slack off, or you're doing really bad and you just start to hate the business. You don't even want to make a phone call because you're like, I'm done with this. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Robert. And you mentioned something, Ian, that I think is very important for agents that are doing well and are becoming complacent, because I've struggled with this many times over the years doing well, is you have to have the goals, right? Lofty goals. You want to take your whole extended family on vacation. That's going to cost you 15, 20 grand. That's a huge goal. But you also mentioned something that you bought a home and you completely remodeled it. So that basically dumps some of your savings to where now you have to replenish that, right? And I think sometimes when you're doing really well, you got a lot of cash on hand. In the back of your mind, you kind of think, hey, I'm good. So I like what you're saying there. Talk a little bit, though, about your future goal that you just mentioned. Obviously, to obtain that goal, you're going to have a team set up and systems in place. What do you have in place right now that's working, and what are some things that you may be going to put into place to make sure that you hit that goal down the line?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, yes, in order for me to go far, I need to have a team, right? And so that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on fine-tuning my value proposition and setting pieces in place that I can offer, my teammates, because ultimately I just don't want to bring them in and not offer anything on value. Like, it has to be a win-win, right? So that's what I'm focusing on right now. As far as what I have in place at the moment, me and my partner just I know people are they're crazy and they're not too fond with Zillow, but we have a Zillow account, right? That should only be about 20% of your business, side note. So we do have that Zillow platform. We do have other lead sources, but more importantly, I'm working on my scripts, my processes, my procedures, and that way I can train my agents to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So we do have systems. I have two systems right now. I have Follow Up Boss and I have Lofty. People are like, why do you have two CRMs? I have Follow Up Boss for more of my SOI people, a little bit more hands-on, and Lofty more for the farm and things of that sort, right? So, but I'm constantly learning. I'm trying to figure out, like, hey, what type of systems do teams have, and what do they got going on that for the reason to make them successful? So I'm constantly learning, man.
Yeah, we got to get you into MIT coaching. I think that's going to definitely help you get into that next level. So that's for sure. The other thing is looking at, let's talk to the audience here for a second. You're a successful agent. What are some ideas or three that you can give advice to an agent that either is struggling, newer, or just something this is what you got to pay attention to in order for you to get to the 36 or, for that matter, 60 deals?
Yeah. So number one, it's coaching. I need to get into coaching. So like I'm a big component of coaching. So my first 3 years in real estate, first year I sold 4 houses, second year I sold 4 houses, and the third year I sold 12. And the reason why I sold 12 in my third year was because I had two things. Number one, a coach. I had a Mike Ferry coach at the time. So I had a coach. And then I had an accountability group. But more specifically, I had that coach. Every week, my coach in Ring said, hey, what are we doing? What tracking your results, like your systems, your models here. You need to practice this script. Here's how you get over this, yada, yada. And I truly wish that I had a coach my very first year, just because I would have been leaps and bounds farther than where I'm at today, 100%. But that's number one is to get a coach. Number two, get a schedule and follow your schedule and then have it to be bulletproof. And in that schedule, there has to be a time of prospecting. There has to be a time of prospecting, a minimum of 2 hours. I would say 3 hours, but a minimum of 2 hours of prospecting every day. And then also, do not count the chickens before they hatch. Please don't. Please don't. You might have 2 or 3 escrows, which is great. It doesn't mean all of them are going to close. You'll continue to prospect for more because we as agents, we are on that roller coaster of income. Right? We get 2 or 3 escrows, they close, and we get down, and there's 0, and it is up, and it's down. So we just got to constantly prospecting, every day. Because that would be my advice, those 3 things. But number one, get a coach. Please get a coach.
Love that. So there we go. Yeah, appreciate the plug. Yeah, as far as coaching is concerned, following a schedule, and then again, just so the audience is aware of the fact what should be on your schedule, there's 3 main things that you should be focusing on every single day. Number one is working on your skills. We speak a different language than the average person out there. That is the language of sales. You got to work on your skills. Number 2 is Ian just mentioned it. You need to invest 2 to 3 and as much time as you can in lead generation. I'm not talking about cold calling. I'm not talking about door knocking. I'm literally talking about having conversations. This is a contact sport. The more conversations you have, the better chances you have to win. Okay. Number 3, we can do a great job of doing all of this prospecting, lead generation. But if we don't do number 3, which is lead follow-up, okay, your business is going to fail. So you got to work on your skills. You got to work on your prospecting, lead generation, and you have to do your lead follow-up. That is absolutely vital. James, is there anything else you have that you wanted to ask Ian before we close it out?
I think lastly, Ian, being that it's 2026, you've been in this business 10 years. I've been in it 13, and Robert a little bit longer than both of us. But we've all seen this shift recently over the last maybe 5 to 8 years, 5, 6 years, from kind of your traditional brokerage to a lot of these cloud-based or rev share brokerages. Can you touch on that just briefly? What caused you to make a change from where you were to now? I think you're at Real, as we all are at Real. What was that? What did that look like? Like, what was that decision making? How did you come to that?
Yeah, great question. So, honestly, I've been to a few places, you know what I'm saying? I've been to the Keller Williams, I've been to the smaller brokerages, I've been, here and there. And what I've noticed is that wherever I went personally, right? Because this doesn't apply to everybody. So personally, whenever I went, I've attracted agents. You know what I'm saying? I brought agents to the company. They like how I do business. They wanted to mingle and network, things of that sort. And so I've noticed that. And everywhere that I've gone, I've helped grow their company, like Keller Williams. I've helped grow smaller brokers, stuff like that. And and I just didn't feel appreciated for my efforts. You know what I'm saying? Like people weren't too thrilled, right? In the way that I would like to, be appreciated. And so now that I've moved on to, a cloud-based brokerages, I benefit from something like that, right? They're like, hey, thank you for help growing the company. We appreciate you. Here's how we appreciate you, and which I love. But aside from that, it's a great place to operate your business. Like even if you're not attracting agents, it's a great place to operate your business. Very low costs. Most like our brokerage doesn't have a monthly fee. Most brokerages have very, very low monthly fees, very low caps. And so I remember talking to a Compass. I don't know if I should talk the name. But I remember talking to a Compass agent.
No, it's fine.
And they were telling me like, yeah, my split is 80-20. There is no cap. And, I grossed $500,000. And I'm like, so you gave $100,000 to your brokerage. And what did they do for you? I asked him, what did they do for you? And he was just like, we have Canva. I was like, oh, okay. That's great.
I'm thinking of a Compass agent right now. Same conversation.
But I'm like, and all jokes aside, but I'm like, just imagine, you people invest in you, not necessarily in your brokerage. In my opinion, people invest in you. So if you were to take 80,000 of that 100, what could you do with $80,000? What could you do for yourself? What could you do for your business? What can you do for your family with an extra $80,000? You know? And so I think people are starting to come to that realization, like, hey, you know, this could be a thing. This could be a good thing. We're still working. It's still growing, but I love where I'm at. Love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's go to wrap this thing up. I do appreciate all of your time, Ian. I want to be respectful of your time. We start on time, finish on time. So with that being said, Ian, thank you again for being here with us. It truly was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This is a great platform. I'm tuning in, and I'll be tuning in the future. Appreciate it.
Love that. All right, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Robert.
See you later.